The scene began. Feeling Satou and Nephrite's making out, he immediately woke up from his dream. When he started to wake up, he saw Satou and Nephrite's who were enjoying themselves together. Satou realized that Hime had woken up and told her that dinner was ready. Prince Mars then asked Alabaster where they were going next. Alabaster said that their next destination was the Land of Water, where the dragonfolk were. Prince Mars also agreed that the Land of Water was their next destination. Nephrite's, who heard this, also wanted to visit the dragonfolk in the Land of Water. But when she ate her soup, it turned out that the soup was still hot and she felt pain. Satou, who saw this, immediately approached him and asked it was very dangerous if they fall out. When Nephrite's looked into the city of Nadekita, she looked amazed because she found out that this city was full of life. Nephrite said that many of the cat people became warriors. That's why the traders chose to travel with their protection. That's why city Nadekita, it looked like a city of giant moving caravans, exactly like the book she had read. Alabaster was amazed by the knowledge of Nephrite's. He also added that in the era of the first king of the ring, the cat people lost their country. Then they reorganized their economy on a wheel and then became a moving country while selling their power. So many of them became mercenaries. Alabaster then said that Nadekita was a very safe marketplace. All the cities that have been passed by Nadekita can make transactions with ease. He also ordered Satou immediately make an appointment to meet the royal fire princess. But at that time Hime and Nephrite seemed to disappear because they were not interested in the explanation of like Hime. She also doubted whether she could fulfill her obligations as a king's wife. But suddenly in front of them, there was a man who looked battered and beaten by someone on his hand. She also said that if Satou wants to make her his wife, he must be stronger than her. After that, she immediately attacks, but the second attack hit him in the stomach. He immediately fell unconscious. She also couldn't believe why the king of the ring could be this weak and how would he be able to defeat the monster abyss. While leaving, she said that Satou could challenge him again another day, saying that many men wanted him. The next day, Satou is seen practicing his sword skill with Mars. Mars also teaches Satou the basic techniques of using a sword, but it turns out to be Satou was easily defeated by him. Hime also thought about what was wrong with Satou. It was time for a meal break and they decided to take a short break. The chef said that the person who would become the husband of the princess of the Fire Kingdom had to be a strong person. He further said that so far no one had been able to beat her in the arena. That's why she looked for people who could defeat him from various races. Renard Nadekita is a strong cat person in the current watching the match between Renard Satou, who saw this then start thinking. Hime then comes over to him and asks if he has practiced today. Satou also answered that his grandfather had also trained him to use magic during the day. Hime also told Satou to lie down on her lap. She also rewarded Satou for his hard work. Feel comfortable, Satou become excited again. At that time Nephrite's came and saw the two of them. Hime also said that being weak is not wrong. She also said that the strength of the ring he wears comes from the strength of the bond between them and will try her best so that Satou doesn't have to force himself to be strong. But even Satou feels uncool if he is weak in front of other. Hime also said that it wasn't a problem and she liked it the way it was. Alabaster, who came immediately, invited Satou to practice magic. Meanwhile, Nephrite seemed thinking about something. When he finished training, Satou was seen entering the sauna room. While muttering about the results of his training earlier, he was shocked by the time Renard entered the sauna room. Renard also allows Satou to call his name. That's when Renard told Satou to immediately massage herself. Satou didn't know what to say. He even said that he had never had a massage before. She doesn't care, because Satou once fought him and he lost to her, so he has to do what she orders. Satou started massaging and was very amazed by Renard's muscles. It's no wonder that Satou felt that if it was a matter of strength he would lose to her. Renard even said that he was actually tired of all this. People who fought her are all just chasing fame. When he saw Satou, she thought that it was time she stopped all this. She also doesn't mind helping Satou. In the next match, she will deliberately give in so that Satou can have the Ring of Fire. However, they have to pretend to attack each other so that their plans are not discovered. After that, Satou is free to do anything to her like he did to his other princes. Renard also knew that if the ring on Satou's finger had great power, then she would deliberately give up on it. Need to feel sorry for him. He will win with his own efforts. That night, Satou was seen practicing the sword alone. He also promised that he would try to win the match later. That's when suddenly there was a burst of light from the ring Satou was wearing. Satou waking up the next day and he notices that it's the duty of the ring princess to support the ring king, and she tells him to follow his heart and do what is necessary. After that he goes to train more harder. Nephrites can't believe that this is all she get because Satou choosing to practice rather than spending time with her. After that Satou seen practicing together with Mars. He manages to surprise Mars with one of his attacks and Mars mentions that he has really improved. Satou wonders if he can at least win once out of 10 tries against Renard, and Mars mentions that this is not possible. He mentions that Satou's opponent isn't going to use these obvious attacks that he just used, and when he can counter her attacks and pull off moves like earlier, then he might stand a chance to defeat Renard. Mars said that he only needed to use the power of the ring, but it doesn't seem right for Satou to do that. And then Satou continues training. Hime watches over deal with the abyssal creatures. Meanwhile Renard tries to fight the knight, which is already controlled by the black ring. She attacks him but her blade melts due to the flames surrounding the knight. She thinks that she needs a way to deal with those flames. Satou tries to give her a backup by sneaking behind the knight and covering his sword with wing magic, but it's no use. The knight sends him flying. Renard then asks him to sit back, as she is going to take care of things from here on out. Satou asks her how she is going to deal with that her people are descendants of the warriors who fought alongside the Ring Kings for her feint, and she manages to land a hit. Satou still doesn't give up and Hime wonders why Satou is going through this, when Renard already agreed to give him the ring. Nephrites asks if she is not going to cheer for him and she said that Satou is fighting for her sake. Renard then tells Satou to use his magic. She wonders. Hime thinks that he must have been tired after using the power of the rings and then he looked cool today. Then she kisses his forehead. After that Satou waking up the next morning and he notices that he is naked and in bed with Hime. She mentions that Satou was really feisty last night. Satou thinks that he can't remember anything. We then see that Nephrites is also on the bed and she mentions that nothing happened last night. She said that she was awake and watching the whole time because it was supposed to be her turn next. Touches them how he wants and they notice that Nephrites and Renard are watching them. Renard then jumps onto Satou and she states that she can't hold back anymore. We see that there is some cat powder. The scene then cuts to the Ring King's group in the Kingdom of Water. Satou thinks that this place is quite bustling even though it's the edge of the world. Alabaster tells him that the Kingdom of Water might be at the border but it's the most bustling city. Satou then wonders where Mars is. Alabaster states that he had something to tend to, so he went ahead. Satou thinks that Mars always wanted to come here and he thinks that there must be a reason for that. A girl then comes to the port and she asks Satou if he is the Ring King. Satou states an army of their own. Satou remembers that the Empire is Mars's country. Saphir tells him that the Jasara's Empire is the largest country ever found by humanity and it's joining hands with various countries to expand its territory. Satou then finds out that the soldier leader earlier was actually the first prince of Jasaras, named Sluter Jasaras, and he is an undefeated general. He is the one in charge of executing the emperor's orders and he is a conqueror who has seized many countries. Alabaster mentions that they only got away for being one of the Ring Kingdoms, wonders if the empire is actually the bad guy. Saphir states that this should be obvious. She mentions that they invaded their country in the name of protecting them from the abyssal creatures but it was just an excuse. Renard states that some people share that idea but the truth is that they have united everyone to prevent the resurrection of the Abyss Kings. Satou mentions that Renard seems really knowledgeable and Renard is happy to hear this. But Saphir thinks that Renard is just a low race who pretends to know, which immediately made Renard want to beat him up. They then arrive at the palace and they find out that some monsters are attacking. One of the monsters then attacks them as well but Satou uses the power of his rings to defeat it easily. Sapphire was amazed to see the power that Satou possessed. Sluter thinks that the legends don't seem to be fairy tales. The scene then cuts that she doesn't want to hear his voice anymore and she leaves. Mars goes. Mars used to be Saphir's lover and she is not surprised that Mars didn't tell them as he is the kind of guy. She meant Empire wasn't satisfied with just conquering the lands of humans. They went as far as to invade the Kingdom of Water Masa but no battle ever broke out. The Empire knew that it couldn't take Masa by force so it hoped to strengthen diplomatic ties. They sent the second prince and mentioned that he would like to learn from Masa as they have a long history as assassins. Another one of them tries to kill Satou but Alabaster saves him without him finding out. Afterwards we see Satou and the group sunbathing. Granard explains that the dragonfolk can't regulate their body temperature. They become slow when their temperature drops. Satou understands that this is why Saphir came here to warm up right after waking up. Granard mentions that when their body temperature gets too high they use water to cool it down. Saphir mentions that this is her backyard and normally she walks around naked. She is putting this on because of them. She mentions that if they are so concerned about who is going to do it with Satou first, they should have a competition. For example, they can have a swimming contest, but Granard doesn't like the sound of that. Hime figures out that she is afraid of water and start to teasing her. Saphir then tells Satou that the seer hasn't given up on her plan yet. She mentions this all an act to expose the seer. Saphir states that this is a great opportunity to bring her true identity. Meanwhile, one of the assassins is listening to them. Afterwards, Satou goes to Mars. He mentions that Mars seems to be in a tough position. Mars states that it's somewhat his fault that Mars is necessary and he doesn't blame his father for calling him worthless. But Satou abandoned everything for Hime's sake, so he is more worthy of being the Ring King. The scene then cuts to Mars telling his brother that he should reconsider as they agreed not to intervene in Masa. Sluder must the seer. She tells him that he should take the rings for himself. Mars asks her to not joke around. She mentions that this is the Emperor's order and he has earned the Ring King's trust. For this very purpose she states that 3 days from now an army of monsters will attack Masa and he should make use of the chaos to kill the Ring King. She mentions that it's time for Mars to atone for his sins, and if he does, then he will have the forgiveness of his father and will be able to win back the princess he loves. Mars asks her if she is a spy from the Empire. She states that she is just a normal seer and can see his future. Thanks to her divination, it's pretty accurate. She mentions that the Ring King is from another world and he is not meant to linger in this one. She states that he is the one worthy of becoming the Ring King. She mentions that there is no need for him to be concerned and she wonders if Mars plans to go against the Emperor's will. She shows him a sword and mentions that it's an ancient weapon. Mars can use it. The scene cuts to Mars strolling around the palace with the sword. He remembers the time when he returned from Masa and his father was disappointed that he couldn't even handle a border country like Masa. He told him that the officials see him as a failure and he mentioned that the Ring King will be selected soon and this will be a great way for Mars to earn people's trust. He told Mars that he is only valuable because he is his son and he asked him to show him his worth. Afterwards we see Mars with an annoyed look on his face and he notices Saphira sunbathing. She notices that Mars is looking at her and she runs away. Mars then thinks that he really has lost everything and he wonders what he should do. The crystal on his sword then blows. Alabaster states that he doesn't and suddenly hears the voice from earlier. The voice tells him that the sword that Mars has can alter the flow of mana. He never expected someone trashy like Mars to be able to wield that weapon. The voice tells Satou that he shouldn't hesitate. It mentions that, with the pile of ashes with no problem at all. Satou mentions that he can't do that. He asks the voice coming from his rings to shut up. The voice wonders why Satou would hesitate to defeat a foe with his own power she gave him. Alabaster realizes that the seer is working with the monsters and she was the one who put that curse on Mars's sword. The seer mentions that she only awakened the desires that Mars already had within him. She states that if they try to do anything strange, Princess Saphira is going to die. She asks Mars if he is willing to trade the rings for her life. And those he cherishes, he will walk his own path. Monster and Mars catches her. He apologizes for making her wait and the seer uses her powers to summon an abyssal creature. She mentions that she is going to kill the Ring King. Saphira of water is going to defend itself. He states that he was too stubborn and he thought that he had to protect the kingdom himself. He let it fall into the villain's hand, but he is not going to make the same mistake with an ally as powerful as the Empire. Sluder mentions that this is wonderful and he states that they are going to rush to their aid if they ever need them. Saphira is happy to see that her father is back to normal and the king tells her that she has managed to find herself a good husband in marriage, and the king tells him that from the day Mars left and until Saphira feelings. He cared too much about the nation and his daughters suffered due to it. He has failed as a father. Sluder then tells Mars that after finding out the truth about the seer and the monsters, he thinks that a conspiracy is brewing in a place where he can't see it. He must return to the capital at once. He hopes that Mars can also come home someday and Mars hopes so as well. The scene then cuts to the seer meeting the Emperor and Sheb mentions. He states that she shouldn't try to control him and he mentions that he only listened to her because their interests aligned. He mentions that the Abyss King can't be trusted and the seer is surprised that he knew that she worked for the Abyss King. The Emperor then states that they don't live in the world of gods anymore. This is the world of men and he will eradicate anyone who stands in his way.